What's up, everybody? My name is Alex. I'm a friend of Daniel's. We've known each other going on 10 years. I had been talking to him earlier about Home Assistant and home automation, and he asked if I would make a video of my setup at the house, and I've been meaning to do one for a while, so here we go. I apologize about how the house looks. We're in that period between Christmas and New Year's where nothing gets done. We're going to be going over the Home Assistant specific stuff. I'll be touching a bit on some Amazon related automations I've created, but mostly we'll be sticking to the Home Assistant stuff. Over here I have on my computer Home Assistant running. I've created an interface that I use to trigger things, check things. It has 35 switches for lights and outlets. It has 11 door sensors and 11 motion sensors. We'll be going over a little bit of all of that. It also has 65 automations that I've used to automate my house, and that's kind of what we're here to talk about, just the different ways that you can automate your house. It doesn't have to be voice commands. A lot of my stuff is passive, just to make life a little bit easier. We'll start over here in the kitchen. In the kitchen, I have two motion sensors that trigger the lights to come on when you walk in. There's a motion sensor there, right above Bill Nye, one of my inspirations to become a bit of a scientist and engineer. The other motion sensor is over here above this doorway. This is a Wink sensor. That's how I started my automation project, was with a Wink hub. I have since abandoned that. I think I've had it for 5 days before I looked for something better. This one over here is a dome sensor, which I also think they've discontinued. I've been trying to find them. I've only been able to find them refurbished, but that's personally my favorite. It's got a lot of customization options. Over here is my other science, my fictional science inspiration, Dr. Emmett Brown. And this is kind of how I got started back when I was, months old. So over here in this hallway, the light just went off. I don't think you got to see that. This is one instance of an automation just for power savings and to keep you from having to chase your kids around screaming at them for leaving lights on. This switch here, which is a GE switch, all of these are GE switches for their Z-Wave automation. This one will turn on the hallway light for 5 minutes. That's currently the only automation it does. That's one of the more simple setups you can do with Home Assistant, just to make sure that it gets turned off, when you're not using it. Eventually, I'm going to put door sensors on both of these hall closet doors so that when you open them, it will also turn on that light. I think that'd be a great addition to the house. Over here is the laundry room. This is just a GE motion switch. It currently doesn't really have any automations other than to turn it off when I run an automation that asks it to turn off. It's that one on the left right there. Those are kind of hard to configure as far as automation goes, just because they like to turn on when they sense motion, regardless of what they're supposed to do. It was originally in my guest bathroom down there, but I found it to be a little fickle for that application. So we'll move down to the guest bathroom, which has, before we go in, it has a motion sensor, it has a door sensor, and then it has two automated switches in there, one for the light and one for the fan. So when we go in, the motion detector will pick up motion and it will turn on the lights. That's a very handy one. It's set on a 30-second interval. So if you don't move in 30 seconds, it will turn off, which originally was a bit of a pain. We figured out a way around that, just incorporating the door, which is a door sensor. So when the door closes, the fan comes on the other switch, and it turns off the timer for the lights. So that motion sensor is not going to do anything. The way I did that is I programmed it so that it will only turn off while the doors are open. So when you close the doors, you essentially keep the light on by bypassing that automation. It also turns on the fan for, obvious reasons. So once the doors open, the light goes back to being on a 30-second timer, and the fan is set to go off 3 minutes after the light goes off. Over here we have the garage. Now I'm not gonna press any switches unless I tell you I'm gonna press them, just to show you, this is all automated. This is what it's great for. So this door has a door sensor that turns on the garage lights for 30 seconds. In here we have a door sensor on this garage door, on this garage door, this garage door here, over here on this side door, and we have 2 motion sensors. We have one dome sensor up here on this side of the garage, and way on the other side of the garage, we have a wink sensor. That was one of the first sensors I got. The winks are a little harder to work with. I have only used the ones that I originally got with my wink hub. Now, if any of these doors are open, a group I created stays open, and that light will stay on. Once I close that, it's a 30-second timeout. That's one really good example of how you can use it to your advantage. If I'm out here working in the garage and I roll up this garage door, it will stay on. It'll stay on for hours. It'll stay on as long as I want it to. And when I close that, I don't have to worry about turning off any lights. I go back inside, pour myself a beer, and it will take care of turning off the lights for me. It also turns on the light when you open any of these doors. So when I get home and open my garage, or when Becky gets home and open hers, it turns the light on for us, and it will stay on until we close the door. So no stumbling over anything trying to get through here to a light switch. This dining room light, it is automated, but the only automation I have written for it, again, sorry for the clothes and whatnot, it's that time of year. The only automation I've written for it is just to turn it off at nighttime. So when we go to bed, it gets turned off. There's no other automation for that currently, just because a motion sensor in a dining room doesn't really make sense. If you're sitting down and talking and eating, you don't really want the lights to go off because you're not moving enough. So that's one example of where I just have an automation set up to turn it off, not to actually turn the light on. In the entryway over here, this door has a door sensor that after dark, if you open it, it will turn on this entryway light, and it will turn on this light out here. This is also activated from outside through a motion sensor, so if someone comes up to the door, it will trigger both this light so they can see what they're doing, and this light in here so you get a heads up that someone's at your door. That's also on a 30-second timeout. I find that to be most effective. Anything less, it'll go off while you're, standing there. And here's the master bedroom. I have one motion sensor in here that turns on 2 lights once it detects motion. Those are not the main lights. Those are called what I call night lights. There's one switch for each on each side of the bed, and we'll be coming back to that because I just finished configuring that today. The main light is an RF. It's got an RF remote. I'm going to be looking into configuring that later with something called Bond.